We are back with more of My Southern Home, and I'm here with Jeff Ratanapool with Stockton Mortgage. And Jeff, I'm so happy to have you on the show because you're always a wealth of knowledge, and it's really important to share what's going on in the real estate market right now.
Yeah, thank you, Kimberly. Happy to be here. I love it to come and talk to you too. I get a lot of information that you share as well, and so I think it's mutually beneficial for sure. Mortgage rates have been on the rise since January of this year. And there were a lot of people that thought they would gradually increase, but unfortunately from January to March, we lost about 2 full percentage points on an interest rate. So people out looking for houses in January who were pre-approved at 3 or a little bit above were shocked in April when they came in and found out that their rate was at 5.5. And so we got as high as almost 6%, in the spring, early part of the summer. But, there doesn't appear to be like any type of projection for them to go down at all. Now, interestingly enough, the conditions of the market in the pandemic and the following year of 2021, those were really abnormal. The rates were supported by government assistance through quantitative easing and cheap money, and all of that ended up catching up with us with inflation. And so the Federal Reserve has made some moves to help to quell the inflation, but it's had a side effect of rising rates both on non-mortgage and mortgage. At the end of the day though, borrowers, it's about the rate where you are when you're there, right? And so, 5.5%, 6% is still historically low. I know it makes the payments a little bit higher, but it's still a good time to buy even with the money. Someone once put out there, date the rate, marry the house.
I saw that,
Yeah.
and I thought that was such a good analogy because I purchased my first home at 7%, and when they go down, you can refinance and lower your rate.
Yeah, absolutely. And most people, what normally happens is as mortgage rates begin to rise even higher, home prices come down to adjust. So that affordability of the payment stays into a small bucket, and then it starts to fluctuate as rates drop again, prices go up. So at the end of the day, you might catch it on the end where you might have been the last person in the neighborhood, you paid a high premium and you had a high price, but eventually that all settles down, and you will get an opportunity at some point as the rates begin to decline again that you could refinance to change your payment.
I was talking to someone the other day that was asking me my thoughts on what was going on, and I always like to say the market's a pendulum.
Very good, yes.
And it always shifts and weaves, but the one thing about the real estate market is it's continuous.
That's right.
And this is a moment in time, and you shouldn't not buy a house because you're scared or you want to wait to see what happens with the market.
And here's an interesting piggyback off that. Let's say rates did go higher, 7.5%, 8%. You would be angry at yourself that you didn't buy at 5.5%, right? So it's all relative, like you mentioned, in that moment in time. And I think you have to look at the value of the home, not just necessarily the payment. Yes, can you afford it? And that's important. But do you love the home you're in? And then the value of it will make up for maybe the higher rates at a time. And again, you will have an opportunity when the pendulum comes back to refinance to save money. Eventually, though, lenders will adapt to the high rate environment, and they will start introducing adjustable rate mortgages. And those are where you would get a discounted rate for a set period of time, typically about 5 years. And that way you could actually kind of do a win-win. You could get a lower payment for 5 years and wait for that cycle of rates to come around to then jump onto the fixed rate when that happens.
Well, and a lot of people are scared too because when the rates go up, the houses, the prices go down. It's that pendulum again, but they're not going to go down so much that you bought over market.
So here's an interesting statistic. Even though there is a pendulum back and forth and you have those abnormal markets like we had in 08 or 09, over time the real estate return on investment is about 4% compounded. You can't, if you look at it in a 2-year window, it might be more, it might be less, but if you stay for the long haul, which most people are in their investment, they're going to make money no matter where they bought in over time because that will appreciate.
So buyers that are getting ready to put their home on the market, or maybe they're buying for a first time, what advice would you give to them with this market?
Do all the things you were going to do regardless of where the market was. Get pre-approved, make sure it fits in your affordability for you and your budget, and then go pick the home that you love and that you can see, maybe growing from there, building a family or whatever your need is. That's what I would do. So stick to the principles, really.
Well, and I think it's important for people to remember too, if they're renting, they're still going to be renting a year from now if they wait for the market and not investing in themselves.
And that's kind of the point in all this. Even though mortgage rates are going up, so is rent. Like everything is $150 more, your groceries, your gas. And so it just had to move with the market at some point, and that's what we're seeing right now.
Well, and I think it's also important to remember that, you know, the affordability of housing is all on what areas you look into, because you might have to look a little bit further out of Jefferson County to find a house that's affordable. But that is something that you've always had to do. So that's not really new.
Yeah, and it's a trade-off. Again, you might save on the home, but then you have a higher gas cost to drive to get to your job. But luckily, you know, with the pandemic, a lot of jobs, people can work from home and be remote. So I just think maybe that's another good advice, is expand your criteria. You know, don't look at the boundaries that you had before. Maybe you have to go to a different place. Maybe you're in Kentucky, maybe you're in Southern Indiana. You know, there are things you just have to maybe adjust to be open to find the home that you love.
Well, in Southern Indiana, it's a great option. It
Absolutely.
really is, because the affordability there is so much lower than the Jefferson County area. Even some of the counties surrounding Jefferson County.
Yeah, there's even rural housing eligibility in Southern Indiana, meaning you can do 100% financing. So, you know, I think opening up and expanding your search is definitely a recommendation.
Well, thank you so much, Jeff. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Kim.
We'll be back with more My Southern Home in just a moment.